Ted Oberg. And Ted, we know that you've kind of reset the map here to kind of look at things once more, but also you guys, as we know, air monitoring is a big deal, mobile units and stationary units in that area.
I'm going to show you the best information we have on that in just a second, but just to give everyone a sense of what we're talking about here, this is the area that we've been watching all week in Deer Park there, and we believe the fire, the latest fire, appears to be in this tank here and this tank here. Those both contain pyrolysis gas. The important point to know there is that it's about 25 to 40% benzene, which is the chemical that we've been very concerned about. To give you a sense of just where this is, let's turn my pen off here and zoom out a little bit, and to show you just how close it is to the waterway. There's the fire again. Here is that small ditch that we've been talking about, and this right here is Tucker Bayou. It does seem that they've been able, as Don pointed out, to put some sand or something there to get the river of fire to stop and not reach Tucker Bayou. But we do know that an awful lot of water is coming on this fire, both here at the tank farm and in between the tank farm and Tucker Bayou. And now what you may not see is all of that liquid heading up towards the bayou. What I wanted to show you here, there we go. These are the most recent air monitoring. What we did see from that plume is that it was headed high up again, high thousands of feet in the air, and chemists have said, and air quality experts have said, that that will likely carry it far enough away that it's not a concern to the immediate area, which is why all of these monitors continue to show green. We pushed into the closest monitor. This is a TCEQ gas chronometer, I'm not saying that correctly, right there in Deer Park. That measures real-time measures of several different volatile organic compounds and toxic chemicals. The big one that you like to watch is benzene, and it's right here in the middle of the screen. Shows a brief spike about 8 a.m., virtually nothing at 2, but important for us to note, and I know you can't see it here on your screen, but no results for the last 2 hours, likely because they are still verifying those numbers. So you're going to have to trust what is coming at you on Twitter from government officials. Nothing here that shows any readings close to when this fire sparked again to give us a sense, at least independently from TCEQ, of what's going on. But there you see that ditch, this again from Sky Eye, a live picture, that ditch still on fire and no foam surrounding it. There is a fire truck there in the picture if you can zoom in there at all. There is a fire truck in the picture there on your upper right-hand side of your screen, but it does not appear to be that they're doing a whole lot right now. There certainly is no foam going on this fire. And what you've got, Eric, as we've talked about a lot here in the last little bit, is that these chemicals that are escaping the berm are lighter than water. They float on top of the water. They float on whatever might be remaining in that ditch, and with a little bit of oxygen, a little bit of heat, they will catch fire. And that's what you continue to see there. It appears that the tanks that are at that giant tank farm have gone out, but the fire in the ditch continues, and that is a serious, serious problem. If we could pop back out to the map again one more time, guys, I just wanted to give you a sense of how tightly packed this area is. I know we've spent a lot of time this week talking about this one particular area of where this fire is. But if you've ever been down to Deer Park or to Pasadena, you know that these chemical plants are tightly packed. Here's the one we're talking about, okay? Keep your eye on that. Right up here is the San Jacinto Monument. The ITC facility goes in sort of an L shape all the way up here, sort of hugs Tucker Bayou and goes all through here. But there are other tank farms all on the side here. All of these folks have likely had to take some action this week. This part of Houston is incredibly tightly packed with chemical facilities, and certainly people who were awfully nervous when they saw that liquid fire moving down that ditch this afternoon after the berm breach, and certainly something that they continue to watch as ITC struggles to control all of this. As we should point out, and we have at some points, Eric and Myra, ITC is the one driving this train here. They are paying for this response. They are directing the response. The response is all on them. And while Harris County has eyes and ears inside the room. It's ITC making the decisions on what to do first and next.
It's a great point, Ted, and also I like the point you made as well. As ominous as this thing looked here about 30 minutes ago with 2 plumes of smoke, it's important to note, as you just showed us, that the readings there in the area are still green, which means healthy for the most part. So let's hope that that is making it up into the atmosphere and it's not staying there at ground level where people will be breathing in this smoke. It's healthy at this point, according to the monitors there.
Yeah, and that's good news, because when you see something like that, it is scary.
It looks ominous. Yes, it does.
It definitely is. I want to read a statement from the company ITC. This is what they're saying. As of now, 4:40, tanks in the west side of the containment area have reignited. They know, they're aware of that. So this is a developing incident. We will provide additional information as soon as it becomes available. They also say that we remain committed to providing updated information as it becomes available. So as Ted was saying, they are driving this boat and they're trying to control the situation and inform the public as well.
All right. And of course, the other hiccup this is causing as well, as we told you earlier, this is a Friday afternoon. We're about to hit peak rush hour. Everybody wants to start their weekend. But unfortunately, the huge, tall ship channel bridge there on the East Beltway that traverses right over the petrochemical area is shut down. We're told out of an abundance of caution, and here is the result. They're not even moving at this point.
Oh, they're not. And I'm sure it caught them by surprise, just like we were caught by surprise in the newsroom when we saw it reigniting once again. In a fluid situation, something like this is bound to happen on a Friday afternoon when everybody's trying to get home and move about the city.
So you can imagine everybody right now is on their GPS trying to find out, or trying to find out the best way to get out here and hit a side street. But once you're in the in this locked up traffic right now, it's hard to get out of. You can either try to hit 146. We did see that bridge and Shelley Childers shot there in Baytown. It looked open, or you can try to make your way back into town to the 610 loop and go south back to I-10 or 45.
Yeah, and I want to point out something really quickly here, Eric. You know, we're always pushing the news app. We always say it's free, you can download it. If you are in the middle of this and you're unaware of what's going on, if you have the news app, you would know right away the situation. Or maybe you can avoid it altogether if you were just leaving the office and you saw the alert. So very important to have that. Just wanted to point that out, because as soon as we know that something like this is happening, something major, we push it out to your cell phone as soon as it becomes available to us. And at this point, we want to go to Stefania Coley. She's been working on the story all week. Stefania, what has been going on? And you mentioned there were people that were pulling off to the side, trying to see for themselves what was going on. What's the latest there in your area?
Yeah, they have been. They were taking videos with their cell phones. These just appeared to be regular community members, but there were also a lot of trucks leaving from the surrounding industrial plants. We know that there is a Shell plant right across the street from the ITC plant as well, so they had to evacuate that area as well. But you can see this is quite a significant difference in what we were seeing about 30 minutes ago, guys. Like, the cloud inside the sky is still very dark, but the images that we saw maybe 20 minutes ago, those thick black clouds of smoke protruding from the tanks. ITC confirming, as you said in the statement that you read earlier, that some tankers were reignited, but it appears that they got those flames down pretty quickly. We still see some smoking and smoldering coming from the tanks back there, but at this point, you just never know what could happen. This could ignite again, just like we saw it ignite again on Wednesday, but it definitely was not as long-lived as what we just saw here today. As I told you guys earlier, it appeared that 2 of the tanks were on fire. I'm sure sky high above the scene, kind of showing you where it has calmed down a lot, but a lot of white smoke still coming from those tanks. A lot of emergency responders were rushing down Independence here. We're still waiting to learn some more details from ITC. I have been reaching out to them all afternoon. We were first talking about that collapsed dike wall that partially collapsed back there at the plant. That was kind of holding in all of the water and foam from this week's earlier fires, and we know that that contained a lot of chemical compounds, because that is what they were using to put out those tank fires. So that collapsed, the water was seeping, and when that happened, that is when that fire kind of reignited at those tanks there. So they were dealing with a lot on their hands. We know one of those tanks, they were trying to keep everything contained inside the pie gas tank, which has the benzene in it. That's what caused the leak Thursday morning, we know. So they were dealing with that, dealing with the leak, and then dealing with these fires reigniting. So certainly just a really big mess out here.
Yes, we can underscore that one as well. Stefania Coley there live in Deer Park, the scene of the ITC reignition this afternoon.
And now we want to go to Chief Meteorologist Travis Herzog. And Travis, you're telling us about the wind speeds here earlier. Not moving a lot, but just a little bit at least.
They are moving, and it's in a fairly uniform direction from southeast to northwest, so blowing across the Houston Ship Channel in the vicinity of Channelview. I want to show you a few things here. One is our tower cam time lapse. At 3:48 this afternoon, you could see the plume that was beginning to rise, and it continued to rise, and it looked like that eerie sight that we saw earlier in the week. You can see the plume spreading out, but not a whole lot. We had very strong winds in the lower levels of the atmosphere earlier in the week that were taking this plume hundreds of miles away. Today, those winds are very light in the lowest 5,000 feet of the atmosphere. This is around 420. You can still see a connection to the ground, but watch what happens in the next few frames. We see the smoke lingering in the sky, but we lose any new smoke rising up from the ground. So verifying that they are, in fact, getting a good handle on this fire pretty quickly. Let's hope it stays that way. The smoke, though, is going to linger, and it's not going to move very much. I can also show you on satellite. You might need to pull the view full screen here so you can actually see it well for our viewers at home. But what we're seeing is on the eastern part of Harris County with a very high resolution visible satellite, you can notice this explosion of black that comes up here. That is the smoke plume arising out of the facility here north of 225, and then the plume spreads over the I-10 corridor between Channelview and Baytown. So the plume looks like it's going to linger in eastern Harris County. It is not going to move westward towards Houston with the way that the winds are currently blowing. We can also see this on our radar imagery. So this is a kind of a traced out view of that smoke plume that stretches from about 225 northward across I-10, but just to the south of Crosby and Highway 90. The westward extent here does not make it all the way to the Beltway, and the eastward extent does not make it to the edge of the Harris-Chambers County line. This is the view on radar, and this is a loop here over the past hour. We're still detecting the plume on radar a few thousand feet in the sky, and you can see the drift, the northward drift here of that plume, at least the layer that the radar is detecting it. So as we zoom down to a closer view here, you can see that it continues drifting off in that northward direction. This is the site of the ITC location, and that's where it's going to continue to drift off in that northerly direction. Do want to show you a wind speed forecast as well, because the winds will play a critical role here. The X marks the spot of ITC. You can see at ground level, we have a southeasterly wind around 8-9 miles per hour. So there is a little bit of a breeze out there. Yesterday and this morning, the winds were just completely light and variable, and it looks like that southeasterly breeze may turn a little more southerly as we head into the evening hours. So again, things will continue to linger in here in eastern Harris County. And then as we get into Saturday morning, we have that southeast breeze blowing very lightly. As we get to tomorrow afternoon, if there are any lingering flare-ups or any accidental releases, those strong southeasterly winds are going to kick in and again blow everything away from Deer Park, away from LaPorte and Pasadena across the Ship Channel towards Channelview and Cloverleaf, and that will continue to move off in that northwesterly direction. So that's what we're looking at there on the wind forecast. As we can see from our live pictures from Sky 13, you can clearly see there's something still ignited, but they have gotten a big handle for the most part on the two flare-ups that we saw. Here it is full screen. You can see someone there, the flame just going out as they continue to spray and get on top of that fire. So the firefighters are working hard as they can here to get a handle on this thing, and they have been pretty effective, it looks like, over the course of the past 30 minutes in getting them largely extinguished. So we're keeping a very close eye on this. Again, in eastern Harris County is where we're going to see most of that smoke pollution lingering. We'll continue to let you know about any air quality issues that could arise from this recent flare-up. So far, we have not gotten any reports of unhealthy levels of anything other than ozone, which is actually unrelated to what's going on here at ITC. We've got widespread ozone problems for today, which can act as a lung irritant, and that can cause asthmatics to have asthma attacks, and it can cause lung conditions to flare up. So we're keeping a close eye on the air quality monitors and also on what's happening here at the location with the winds and which way this will blow. Again, I don't think we're going to see much of a change to the wind direction, so it should continue blowing there across the Houston Ship Channel in that northwesterly direction or even a northward direction. So we'll continue to monitor the satellite and radar and wind observations for you here in the ABC 13 Weather Center.
All right.
Travis, thank you so much for keeping track of that for us.
And that's a picture we've all wanted to see at least once this fire reignited. There is the torch ditch now that has been extinguished, and Don Armstrong has been in Sky Eye for us reporting all afternoon.
Wow.
And Don, this is actually to kind of lets everybody understand what was on fire here. It was hard to tell at first. And obviously, as you noted correctly, as Ted did, this is the ditch that was charred now, and we can see the foam still left over.
Yes, and as Travis was pointing out, there was a flare-up as they were putting water on the grass that grows on either side of the ditch here, because those were the fumes off of the chemical that is flowing down into the Houston Ship Channel. And when they threw the water on it, it broke that foam cap and briefly flared up as they put the grass fire out. I want to pull back here and show you what's going on at the ITC facility. They've got the ditch fire out for the moment anyway. And over here at ITC, they still have a small fire that is still burning. And as you can see, it's still there at the bottom of that tank. Earlier, it was really flaring up quite a ways and creating a lot of black smoke. They put a lot of foam on it. Right now, the foam truck has stopped pumping foam on it, and as you can see, just a light wisp of smoke coming off of it. Water is being applied to the manifold over here. Those are the pipes that you can see that are very black that go from the left to the right-hand side of your screen, trying to cool those off. That's something that we don't want to break into, because no telling what is in those as they move chemicals back and forth. Remember, the spokesperson from ITC said earlier that they were removing chemicals from the remaining tanks, and those are instrumental in doing that. But as you can see, still a little black smoke here, but things are much more under control than they were just a few moments ago here at the ITC plant over in Deer Park.
Yeah, that's true. Don, thank you so much for giving us that visual there and updating us. So as we saw happening live on air here on ABC 13, those tank fires and even that grass fire near the facility are now put out, and ITC notified the media saying that the tank fire has been contained and firefighters were putting out that grass fire near the facility as we were watching here happen live on air.
So that is some good news after everything that's happened here over the last hour and a half. Some other bit of good news, because they've got this fire contained and that grass fire out that firefighters extinguished live here. The Ship Channel Bridge is now open. Everybody we showed you here minutes ago that was just basically car in park on a Friday with the headlights and the taillights on. It's moving now.
It's moving. Look at that.
Going back and forth each way, everybody trying to get home. So some things getting back to normal just a little bit right now.
Some tense moments, Eric.
Yeah, well,
but we're getting through this.
We're
getting you through it as well.
Let's go over to Ted Oberg right now, because he's got yet another map that really kind of just shows you the way this plumes, I should say, for today anyway, Ted, how they travel.
Yeah, I think this is a map the city of Pasadena put out, and I just got word from Travis Herzog in his conversations with the National Weather Service. They have some concerns about just how accurate this is one way or another, but it does give you a sense of the general direction of the way this smoke plume was headed. So there's the San Jacinto Monument. That red X, which is hard to see at home, is the site of the fire, and that'll give you the sense of how far this smoke plume spread. Don't necessarily try and figure out where your house is underneath this blue, green, or dark blue area, but more importantly, this is the thing that we're most concerned about, was showing that maybe 2-hour lag time, but this is clearly more up to date, and now showing here, at least just on the outskirts of Channelview, that there was some detection of VOCs. There are elevated VOCs levels. Smart people at home will tell you every day when cars start to get on the road because of the increase in exhaust, but we believe, or at least anecdotally, that this is the direction that the smoke had traveled, and it's important to remember that is now picking up at least some of the problem zone there. Just again, to show everyone what was going on this afternoon, here is that tank farm, obviously well before the fire. 11 of these 15 tanks had caught fire. The foam blanket, hoping to keep all of the chemicals underneath. Something slipped out and caught fire. Likely in these 2 tanks here, the fire was sort of right in this area. Both of those tanks contain something called pyrolysis gasoline. The important thing to know there is twofold. One, that it is an element of gasoline. It's a gasoline blend, meaning it's lighter than water. It'll float on top of the water, which is why that foam blanket is so important. The second thing is it's 25 to 40% benzene, according to the incident commander at ITC just this morning. And that is a carcinogenic compound that is floating in this soup underneath the foam, and that's what they are trying to contain. What you saw this afternoon was a breach in the berm, a breach in the levee that surrounds these 15 tanks. That liquid started to slip out here into this ditch, and that's all it is, by the way. This is not supposed to contain chemicals. When you look at it, this is a grassy ditch that is likely used just for drainage. drainage, certainly not for any sort of meaningful chemical disposal. But all of that sludge from inside this berm started to go down this way where they clearly didn't expect it. That foam blanket not in place, the chemical hot enough and definitely enough exposure to oxygen, it caught fire, and that's what you've seen. On the right side of your screen, you continue to see that foam blanket being applied. As we've talked about repeatedly, guys, and I know we did this yesterday with you, but I'm going to go back to the most valuable dollar bottle of water I've bought in